Josh Allen's got a new contract and a new receiver. We're going to break it down for you today on Locked On Bills.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino, author of the Herd Mentality Substack, co-host of the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast, co-host of the NFL First Read Podcast, and I'm your host of Locked On Bills. Want to thank you for making Locked On Bills your first listen every day, and a big welcome and shout out to our everydayers. You know who you are. Those of you who never miss a single episode, I appreciate y'all being here very, very much. I'd also like to invite you to subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Well, folks, welcome in. We got a lot to cover. Josh Allen with a new contract with the Buffalo Bills. Plenty to discuss there. And there's a new receiver, Josh Palmer, added to the mix. So we got to break that down. And as the NFL's negotiating window has opened, we've seen a lot of player movement, which means there's been some misses for the Bills so far. And obviously a lot to talk about in terms of what the next moves could be. So let's do all of that right now. But we start with Josh Allen, the NFL MVP, signing a new contract with the Bills. 6 years, $330 million, $250 million guaranteed. That's the most ever guaranteed money for a contract in the history of the NFL. It's a ton of money, right? A ton of money. But at the same time, somehow, this is a really good value for the Buffalo Bills. First of all, Josh Allen's worth every penny. Every penny. There's no dollar amount that would have been too much. Honestly, I was expecting more. I thought this could be $65 million a season or more. If that were the case, I wouldn't have blinked. It comes in at $55 million a year. That's not the highest paid APY quarterback in the NFL. That's number two. Dak Prescott, number one, at $60 million. Josh Allen at $55 million a season, tied with the likes of Jordan Love, Trevor Lawrence, and Joe Burrow. Crazy. Oh, by the way, you know what I care about most is percentage of cap at signing. And this deal for Josh Allen comes in at 19.7% of the cap at signing. Where does that fall? 13th. 13th. Joe Burrow, number one at 24.4%. Dak Prescott, number two, 23.5%. Justin Herbert, 23.35. Lamar Jackson, 23.13. Pat Mahomes, 22.7. Jalen Hurts, 22.6. Kyler Murray, 22.14. Deshaun Watson, 22.1. Trevor Lawrence, 21.5. Jordan Love, also 21.5. Tua Tagovailoa, 20.79. Jared Goff, 20.75. Josh Allen, 19.7. A lot of money, but relative to the quarterback market, a great value for the Buffalo Bills. A great value. Josh Allen was never not going to sign a new deal in Buffalo. It was only a matter of time. Now, he needed the bump, right? We knew that was necessary. At $43 million a season, Josh Allen was down to like 13th in APY. So they get that right, but still with a lot of value, a lot of flexibility baked into this. You listen to Brandon Beane on the Pat McAfee show on Monday, and he talked about, hey, structure-wise, we just kind of had to figure out how we could position this so that we can still get the players we want around Josh Allen. It's a heck of a value. Not that there was any doubt, right? Josh Allen is that dude. He's the NFL MVP. You have no concerns about who Josh Allen is. But I think at the same time, 2024 really validated who he is in the NFL. Josh Allen showed us that he sets the floor for this team. Not a big statement that I just made, but in a transition year, had this team knocking on the door of the Super Bowl, AFC Championship game. A lot of turnover offensively. First year for Joe Brady as the offensive coordinator. Brand new receiver core. Khalil Shakir, only receiver entering the season that had played in a game with Josh Allen prior to 2024. Still trying to get Dalton Kincaid going. Good offensive line, good running back situation. But Josh Allen proved exactly who he is. As a guy that because he's your quarterback, you got a real shot, no matter what's around him. Wasn't the best roster around Josh Allen this past season. There's no question about it. But he led the Buffalo Bills to the most prolific offense they've ever put on the field. Scored nearly 31 points a game. The efficiency numbers off the charts. No negative plays. Only 4.2% of plays resulted in a sack, fumble, or interception. That's the lowest in the history of the NFL. It's obvious why he was the NFL MVP. And he's locked up now through his age 34 season. It's incredible. What an incredible ride we've been on with Josh Allen. The quarterback we dreamed of, right? The quarterback we always dreamed of. Probably exceeded those dreams, let's be honest. Here to stay. Again, not that it was ever a concern, but it's nice to see this get done. And you know what's cool about it getting done is there was no hype. There's no negotiating in the media. There's none of that. You're just chilling on a Sunday afternoon. The next thing you know, Josh Allen, 6-year, $330 million deal in Buffalo. Awesome, right? Dallas and Cincinnati couldn't imagine anything like that. I love that so much about what's been happening with the Bills has been these extensions. Allen, Khalil Shakir, Terrell Bernard, Greg Rousseau, taking care of their own. It sends a loud message, not only to the locker room, and that, hey, if you're a first-round pick like Rousseau or Allen, or you're a third-round pick like Bernard, or Shakir is a fifth-rounder, you're going to get taken care of. You do what you're supposed to do, you're going to get taken care of. Sends the right message to the locker room, but also to the NFL. You're seeing Cincinnati fumble over all these different guys. Higgins, Chase. Got the trade away, Trey Hendrickson. They got an amazing quarterback in Joe Burrow, and they're screwing around everything with him in terms of what's around him. Dallas, everything's hard for Dallas, right? Dak Prescott, that felt like that went on for 2 years. Are they going to be able to get Micah Parsons done? CeeDee Lamb felt like it was a chore. Now, if somebody's your guy, they're your guy. Figure out the money and get it done. And the Bills do that. And I'll say this about Brandon Beane. His greatest strength is managing his own roster, like his own players, in terms of extensions and who to pay, and then also who to move on from. Very few players has Brandon Beane said goodbye to where I was like, oh boy, I miss that guy. Wyatt Teller, maybe like the only one. And so, yeah, he doesn't get every draft pick right. He doesn't nail every free agent signing, but he does a really good job with the in-house evaluations. And Bill Belichick will tell you, I've listened to him multiple times talk about how the most important evaluations to get right are your in-house evaluations. And Brandon Beane just continues to get really good value out of these contract extensions and just managing the players that have been in the building already. You know, we're in this NFL negotiating window. Things are happening like crazy. And, you know, you're seeing all these big ticket contracts getting signed. And the offensive tackle thing has really just been on my mind. You saw Jalen Moore, who's been the backup left tackle in San Francisco behind Trent Williams for a number of years. He started 12 games in 4 years. He signed a 2-year, $30 million deal with the Chiefs to be their left tackle. That's $15 million a season. How about Dan Moore with the Titans? He signs a 4-year, $82 million deal. That's $20.5 million a season. He signs with the Titans. He's been on the Steelers since he was drafted. And the Steelers have been trying to replace him for 3 years. They let him walk in free agency. He gets $20.5 million a season. Go back to September when Brandon Beane signed Spencer Brown to a 4-year, $72 million a year deal, $18 million per season. And Dan Moore just got $2.5 million more per. Jalen Moore got $3 million a year less. That's what I'm talking about. Being able to get that type of value with your in-house extensions. Big feather in Brandon Beane's hat. And like I said, he doesn't get every draft pick right. He doesn't get every free agent signing right, but the man does a heck of a job managing the players that are in the building. And I think this contract extension screams value to me. Just like, I mean, you could look at these other deals. Look at Terrell Bernard coming in at $12.5 million a season, and Nick Bolton's getting 15. Jamian Sherwin's getting 15 at linebacker. I'm just very impressed. Khalil Shakir, coming in at $12.5 million a season, and you're seeing the money out there for these receivers. Tutu Atwell's getting 10 per. De'Ami Brown's getting 10 per. A lot of really good stuff going on in terms of these in-house contract extensions. All right. The Bills did more than just extend a bunch of players. They signed wide receiver Josh Palmer. I'll tell you all about him on the other side of it. Folks, be sure to stick with me. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Taking care of your mental health can feel like a big investment, but it's just as important as taking care of your body. Traditional in-person therapy can cost anywhere from $100 to $250 per session, but with BetterHelp, you can save up to 50% per session. BetterHelp offers a flat fee for weekly online therapy sessions, making professional support more accessible and affordable. With over 30,000 therapists and over 5 million people helped, it's the world's largest online therapy platform. We spend money on gym memberships and healthy food. Why not invest in our mental well-being too? Therapy isn't just for tough times. It's a great tool for learning coping skills and how to set boundaries. BetterHelp makes it easy to fit therapy into your schedule, whether you're working, parenting, or always on the go. You don't always have to be going through a major crisis to benefit from therapy. Sometimes it's just about having someone to talk to. Your well-being is worth it. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. All right, let's talk about Josh Palmer, Bill's new wide receiver. And if you have been paying attention to this podcast or you've read my work in the Herd Mentality Substack, you know that this was the receiver I wanted the Bills to sign. So I'm pretty geeked up about this one. And so I'll break this down for you. Hopefully I'll add some new information to the conversation. So Josh Palmer, a Toronto native, that's fun, right? Signs a 3-year or agrees to terms on a 3-year, $36 million contract with the Bills, which comes in at $12 million a season. Yes, that comes in higher than expectations, which I think has been the theme of this negotiating window. Like I said, Tutu Atwell, De'Ami Brown got 10 per. And so 12 is high compared to, where Spot Rack had the estimations, where PFF had the estimations. But when you look at it relative to the money that's going, I guess it kind of makes sense. So let's talk about this player. He turns 26 years old in September, was a 3rd-round pick in 2021 by the Chargers out of Tennessee, number 77 overall. He's 6'1 and a quarter, 210 pounds, 33-inch arms, 9 5/8 on the hand size. Relative athleticism score, 7.59 out of 10. This past season, 39 catches, 584 yards, and a touchdown. And look, you're probably not blown away by those volume stats. And boy, I think there's just so much more to discuss, right? This is about adding a skill set and a player to the offense. What does he provide this offense? So if you want to just harp on past production, okay, you can. I don't think that's the best way to have this conversation. It's about what does this player add to the Buffalo Bills offense? And that's what I want to talk about, because you could talk about the production, and I think there's 2 huge things to be mindful of. First of all, his first 3 seasons, he playing behind Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. Okay, he wasn't a top 2 option in the passing game. Then in his 4th season, which happened to be his 3rd different offensive coordinator, they become a run-heavy team with, Greg Roman, and of course, Ladd McConkey kind of emerges as their, draft pick sensation, and then they're validating Quentin Johnston as a former first-round pick. Like, there's a lot of reasons for this. Again, it's about what skill set are the Bills adding. And what the Bills are adding is a outside receiver. So all the people that are just not another slot. Okay, here you go. This isn't another slot. It's a legitimate outside receiver. That's a dynamic route runner with good size and good hands. And he blocks, right? He's very much will do the dirty work of the offense. Let me tell you about this guy as a route runner, and this is what's most important. As you know, as I've said repeatedly on this podcast, the Bills have faced the most man coverage of any team in the NFL over the last 2 seasons. And in fact, I think it was even more last year than the year before, which is a direct statement from the NFL that despite Josh Allen being your quarterback, we don't respect your outside receivers. We don't respect your outside receivers. We're going to man them up and play defense that way. You wouldn't expect Josh Allen to be the quarterback of the offense that faces the most man coverage, but here we are. Why? Because the Bills haven't had route winners at receiver. Josh Palmer, metrically, has been a terrific route runner. Give you some data courtesy of the Fantasy Points data suite. Among the 141 receivers last season to run at least 100 routes, Josh Palmer ranked number 5 in route win rate against man coverage, number 10 against zone coverage. Now, while I think all but like 200 of his snaps came out wide, he's number 13 separating against as a wide alignment player and number 5 from the slot. So whether it's man or zone, from the slot or outside, this guy is metrically outstanding winning routes. Bills need that in a big way. Hands, outstanding. Last year, only 1 drop on 45 catchable targets. And like I said, it's not the volume stats, it's the efficiency. His efficiency metrics are exceptional. His EPA per target last year, plus 0.33. That tied Zay Flowers and Brian Thomas and was higher than Mike Evans, Malik Neighbors, Cortland Sutton, Drake London, DJ Moore, and a bunch of other guys. It's about the skill set added. And no, you're not getting a yards after catch player. You're not getting a burner down the field. I think he ran in the 4.5s, but you're getting a route winner that can catch the football, that can win from multiple alignments, that has good size. There's upside here as well. I mean, he's turning 26 in September. I really like the move. This was the receiver I wanted the Bills to add. And you got to have your expectations in the right place. The Bills didn't sign Josh Palmer to come in and be Stephon Diggs 2.0. They didn't sign him to come in and get 100 or 120 targets. They've signed him to come in, most likely to come in and get 60 to 90 targets, be a consistent route runner that helps make defenses pay for playing man coverage. Adds a blocker. Like, it's very much a good fit. Like, when I did the research on these receivers, I thought to myself, this is just like the sirens were going off that this is the right fit. No, it's not DK Metcalf. It's a good, useful skill set to add. And we talked about this. Bills offense was great last year. Great. The most prolific scoring offense they've ever had. To me, this was the type of investment they should make. I know that it would have been cool to get DK Metcalf. I don't know. Maybe you don't agree after he signed a 5-year, $150 million deal. Would you rather have done that? The Bills didn't need that type of investment at receiver. They need investments on defense. We'll talk about that. Defense was clearly the problem with this team. Wasn't the offense that scored 30 points per game. It wasn't that. It was a defense that was 23rd against the pass and bottom 5 on third downs. That's what the problem was. So, yeah, I wasn't super dialed in on, hey, got to make a huge splash at receiver. I don't know how you could watch last season and feel that way. Maybe you would want it. It's certainly cool and fun and exciting. I get that. But the bigger needs were obviously on the defensive side of the football. And so, as of the recording of this podcast at 4:45 on Monday, the Bills haven't done anything yet to help their defense. and we'll certainly get there, but this was the right type of investment, in my opinion, for a receiver. I think he checks so many of the boxes that I'm looking for, or was looking for the Bills. And so now you look at this receiver core, Shakir in the slot, Keon, Coleman, Josh Palmer. I mean, they're all locked in for the next 3 seasons at least, right? They're all young. I mean, Palmer's the old one at 26. Shakir just turned 25. Coleman's 21. Curtis Samuel's like your X Factor guy. Kincaid, I'm still high on Kincaid. You should be too. These running backs, this offensive line, I like where this is headed. Now, I would like to get maybe a receiver that adds some verticality, or, I'm curious to see what happens as Mac Hollins come back. Is that 5th spot now really ripe for a Jalen Virgil or a Tyrell Shavers to come in and be a blocker and to be a special teams guy? We'll see, but this was the investment I was hoping the Bills would make at wide receiver. Does it come in a little more than I thought it would? Yes, but that's kind of been the theme of free agency to this point. All right, on the other side of it, I want to kind of get into some of the primary needs for the Bills, where some of the contracts are coming in, what's left, what's next, et cetera, et cetera. Folks, be sure to stick with me. This is a message from our sponsor, Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back, and then waiting, wondering, and worrying some more. Now, Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return, so you can get real-time updates on their progress, so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy, all so that you can get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now this is Taxes. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service, real-time updates only in iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. All right, so what's next for the Bills? I prepared some thoughts on the DK Metcalf situation. I kind of got into that in the last segment. But obviously, there's still extensions that could happen. And when I say extensions, I mean a player that doesn't have an expired contract. So Connor McGovern, Christian Benford, James Cook. Now, Christian Benford, what's interesting, J.C. Horn with the Panthers just signed a 4-year, $100 million deal. Christian Benford's proven a whole lot more than J.C. Horn. J.C. Horn's a good player. I'm not trying to slight him, or he's catching strays here. But if you think that contract's not going to come in north of $20 million, I'd be real surprised. I wouldn't. I think it could be $23 million a season very, very easily. See what happens with James Cook. I don't think the Bills are close on that one. And then, of course, Connor McGovern, Drew Dahlman signed a pretty healthy deal with the Bears. I think it could push 12, 13 million a season, something like that. As of right now, again, 4:50 p.m. on Monday, none of the Bills' expiring contracts have signed with another team or agreed to terms with another team. So Mac Hollins, Ty Johnson, Reggie Gilliam, DeMar Hamlin, Rasul Douglas, Amari Cooper, DeJuan Smoot, Austin Johnson, Quentin Jefferson, Quentin Morris, Jordan Phillips. I'm certainly hopeful for Hollins, Johnson, and Gilliam to come back. But while wide receiver feels like it's a little bit less of a concern, you still got to figure out edge, defensive tackle, and corner, right? This is where your biggest problems are in these positions, and you haven't addressed that yet. Now, looking at the edge rusher situation, Josh Sweat signed with the Cardinals, 4 years, $76 million. That's $19 million a season. That one stings because I'd have done that and I'd have paid him more. I'd have offered him 23, 24 million without question. That's a heck of a deal for the Cardinals. I was hopeful that the Bills would do that, but hey, maybe next time we record a podcast, the Bills will have traded for Trey Hendrickson, and I'll be really excited about that. Khalil Mack went back to the Chargers, 1 year, $18 million. Hassan Reddick to the Bucks, 1 year, $14 million. I'd love that. I think he's a better fit for Tampa, but that's those are two deals that came in under projections, which hasn't really been the case with a lot of these deals. Deo Adeyembo, he goes to the Bears at $16 million a season. I thought he could have been like a very high-end DeJuan Smoot replacement that would reduce inside and play on the edge, and you can kind of move him around a little bit, but he goes for $16 million a season. So the Bills are looking for an answer on the edge. A lot of the options are getting scooped up here. So we'll see where that falls. My focus is on hopefully trading for Trey Hendrickson. That would make me real happy if that's what the Bills did at edge. At defensive tackle, the Bills have a need for a nose tackle. You saw these guys get signed. A couple of guys staying with their teams. DJ Jones, $13 million a season, stays with the Broncos. BJ Hill, $11 million a season, stays with the Bengals. Sebastian Joseph Day, 1 year up to $7.5 million. He stays with the Titans. Then Poona Ford, he goes to the Rams for $10 million a season. I'm still hopeful for Bobby Brown here, but I think the market is telling us that, I think I had originally said like 2 years, $7 million for Bobby Brown. It's probably going to be closer to a $10 million a year deal. So he's the guy that I'd love to see the Bills add at defensive tackle. Certainly some other options that are still out there that are interesting to me. Fali Fadakasi is interesting. Tier Tart, I don't know if the Bills would go for him. I think he's kind of got, maybe some questions, but there's certainly some answers there, but I'm hoping the Bills add a meaningful player as an A-gap defender. Milton Williams, he goes to the Patriots for $26 million a season. That's crazy to me. The guy's never even played more than 48% of snaps in a season. So these defensive tackles are getting a ton of money. I hope the Bills get something here that gets us excited, but obviously nothing yet. And then the other spot is cornerback, where the Bills obviously have a need opposite of Christian Benford. Some players that went. DJ Reed, he goes to the Lions for $16 million a season. Carlton Davis to the Patriots at $20 million a season. That's really high. The guy's literally never had a healthy season. And then Paulson Adebo, a player I was really hopeful for from the Saints, he goes to the Giants at $18 million a season. So my attention at corner goes to Javarius Ward. That's definitely the name that I'm hoping for there. You could talk me into some other guys like Christian Fulton, maybe Jonathan Jones, maybe Shaq Griffin, maybe Akella Witherspoon. So obviously some work to do at corner, defensive tackle, defensive end still as well. And I'm excited to see how this kind of plays out. We're early into this thing. I'm recording this podcast. Free agency or the negotiating window has been open for like 5 hours. There's so much left to get done. But with the Josh Allen extension, with the Josh Palmer news, I wanted to get an episode out to you. And then, that's going to be the theme of this week. We're just going to, whenever I got enough to do a show, I'm going to do it and publish it. And then, I'm sure with my luck, I'll get done here and the Bills will sign a player. And, I'll wish that I waited, but it's a tough week. It's a tough week. It's a fun week. But in terms of when to hit record, there's obviously a lot of challenges with that. So head on a swivel this week. Tons of content still to come. Obviously, we'll be breaking down everything that happens, and I'm curious to see where we are next time that we check in. But that's it for now. Thanks for being here. As always, I kindly ask that you share, subscribe, rate, and review. Have a great rest of your day. Go Bills, and we'll catch up again real soon.